Welcome back, everyone, to the countdown to Spider-Man No Way Home. Taylor is unfortunately sick, so I am joined by somebody new. I am joined by
Jonah Morgan.
And today we are going to be talking about Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Starting out with sort of how we've done it. We're not going to have what we didn't like. We will have a section for stuff that we were on, because I know you especially have some things you were very on.
Yes.
So you go first, because I don't have something for this section either.
I would say some of the first Spider-Ham, I'm sorry, I can't get behind it.
He's the best part, though.
I wouldn't, yeah. And also, I think they could have made the Dr. Octopus character a bigger character. Because I liked her for what she was in, but she just was she almost felt like a henchman instead of like a villain, like an actual villain like she should.
I think, to me, that sort of fit because of who the main villain in this movie is. And because
that's
you
true.
have so many, because I'll understand, in the S section of how a lot of villains aren't the most fleshed out, like Scorpion.
Yes, because I almost forgot Scorpion was in this movie, to be honest.
Yeah, Scorpion, Tombstone, all them. But I honestly was able to get past that because it's not about introducing them, because they've already been established in this universe, and they make for some great scenes for some other characters.
Yeah, and Kingpin is almost like their boss, like he's hired all of them, so it kind of feels appropriate. Okay, I understand that.
He pretty much is. Was there anything else you were on?
No, no.
There's so little for this movie.
This movie's great.
There's so little for this movie because this movie is just the definition of just unfair. So, jumping straight into what we liked. Starting with, I'll say the big one, is the fact that, so every other Spider-Man movie focuses on Peter Parker. This one focuses on Miles Morales. Mm-hmm. He is fantastic in this movie, especially because this is really about his origin, and it mixes that in with Spider-Verse elements, and it's amazing.
I think, also the guy they got to, I don't know his name, but the guy they got to play as the voice actor, I think was perfect. I might
be pronouncing this wrong, but I believe it's Shameik Moore.
Okay.
I think is the name, but
yeah, he was good.
He sounded like Miles. Mm-hmm. You listen to his voice, and you can really, even watch this movie, you could really hear him as Miles Morales. But yeah, Miles had so many great scenes throughout this movie. I love because they set up his origin very, very well, because how his origin is in the comics is he becomes Spider-Man, right? He gets his powers, but he is really scared to use them. Mm-hmm. And because he is so scared and doesn't help out, the Peter Parker of his universe dies. That's pretty much exactly what happens here, is his universe's Peter Parker is trying to stop Kingpin from using this device that will pretty much disrupt the multiverse, and ends up getting severely injured, and Kingpin ends up killing him.
Yeah.
It's fun. I find it so funny that this Peter Parker is voiced by Chris Pine.
Mm-hmm.
I
honestly forgot that he was too, because the Peter Parker that comes after kind of overshadows him a little bit because he's just that good.
We'll get to him.
But yeah, I feel like also the fact that they, you could tell this movie wasn't playing around, because they weren't being all soft. They killed Spider-Man within the first 10-15 minutes of the movie.
About that, because most of the beginning of the movie is, well, I love how the movie starts out where you're introduced to Chris Pine as Spider-Man, and then they immediately start focusing on Miles. I love alright, let's do this one last time. Yeah. They do that for every single Spider-Man they introduce in this movie, and I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I also love the amount of references that they have to other Spider-Man movies, because in the beginning scene alone, you get references to, even when Peter B. Parker is introduced later, you get references to Spider-Man 2 stopping the train, the upside-down kiss in the original Tobey Spider-Man, the scene where Tom Holland is holding the ferry together, and of course, the return of emo Peter Parker. At least that time was brief, and even because it's Peter Parker and Peter B. Parker. But I love how even Peter Parker is we don't talk about that time. I love when all the other Spider-Men get introduced, because Peter B. Parker is shown not too long after and he is hilarious. Cause I love the direction that they decided to take with making him in like his mid-30s, because he says that he had been Spider-Man for 22 years.
Yeah, they lean, like, with the first Peter Parker you see in the movie, he's still, like, he's got that goofy side to him, but with the Peter B. Parker, like, that's his entire character, is he's that comedic guy, like, he's
who is so old and he's so tired of being Spider-Man, which when you see and just hear about everything he's been through, you understand. He lost Aunt May. He pretty much lost Mary Jane too, because he was scared about committing to wanting kids. And it's like you really felt like he had been through the ringer to where later in the movie when he wants to stay behind and just straight up die because he feels like he doesn't have anything else, you really feel for him. You understand why he acts this way. They handled it so well. And between focusing on him and Miles, because it was pretty much the two of them that got the most focus. Also, but with Gwen Stacy, who shows up pretty early on.
That was something else I was kind of hit on. Her character was fine. It was fine. But
I honestly liked her. Like, yeah, not every single Spider character is going to have a lot of characterization,
right.
But I like that they make up for it by making them very likable and very memorable.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
Because they do that for pretty much everybody else. Because they give everybody their moment to shine.
Yeah, like they even got like an A-list actor like Nicolas Cage to play.
This is his best role in years.
Who would be considered to be like a secondary character they don't focus much on, but they got somebody like Nicolas Cage to play him.
Yeah, because while Spider-Man Noir didn't have anything, because you had Nicolas Cage voicing him, and they just made him such a memorable character, especially with the Rubik's Cube. This is purple. Nope. I will say, Penny Parker probably got the least, because she didn't really get too many moments of her own.
She was the
one with the robot.
She had the robot, right? Yeah. Like they mention her backstory very briefly, but that's about all they give to her.
She was probably the least, but she still wasn't bad by any means, but compared to everybody else, where at least everybody was either funny or had more screen time, she did get the least.
Yeah.
But she was still fine. This is something we definitely agree on. I think Spider-Ham is fantastic. I think he is such a hilarious character. When you had John Mulaney voicing him, like he doesn't get a lot either, but they make up for it by making him so memorable. And I think he has some of the funniest moments in this movie. You got a problem with cartoons is hilarious, because Scorpion is like, what's he gonna do? And then Spider-Man beats him up.
See, my thing is, when you usually see Spider-Ham, you're like, oh, it's so ridiculous that it's kind of funny. The rest of the movie was funny enough and like comedic enough to where he just kind of looks weird to me. Like, he's not as outlandish as usual, because like, I don't know, you usually, like, for instance, you'd see him in like seeing him in like a live action setting would be weird, because like he's a cartoon obviously, but like when the rest of them are cartoons as well, it's less.
Yeah, I feel like Spider-Ham is going to be, if they ever do him in live action, he's going to be a really interesting one to try and pull off. Like, I really love the dynamic between Miles and Gwen. I think because you see them pretty much right from the start, which I like how they explain how Gwen was back that far, because at first you're like, wait a minute, this didn't happen yet, why is she here? And then they explain why she is there. I think that's what's going to be the majority of the focus when the sequel comes out.
The animation style is absolutely perfect.
Beautiful. I was very skeptical on it, because when I first saw it, I thought it wasn't the best. And then that's one reason that makes this movie so fantastic for me, is the fact that I went in with such low expectations, and then I saw it, and then it blew them out of the water.
Yeah, because they had like the colored dots to make it look like the comic book style, and they do it to perfection to me.
Yeah, when you watch this movie, it really feels like you're watching a comic book brought to life.
Yeah.
And that's just what makes this movie so great. Even though again, some of the villains they get a lot, because majority of them like Doc Ock got the most of all the secondary ones, but even then she didn't get that much.
Yeah.
Kingpin, though.
Kingpin, his
design is so stupid that it's funny. No, I just find it hilarious because it's bad, yeah.
He could take up the entire screen and like...
He straight up does.
There's one shot where he takes up the entire screen and his face is just like in the middle, but like the rest of the screen is his suit.
That's like one of the first times you see him. Like, yeah, it's very jarring, but I think it's so funny because when Peter and Miles are about to sneak into this company, Alchemax, and then all of a sudden Miles sees a car pull up, and like the car pulls up, you pan back to Miles, or like it goes back to Miles, and then it goes back to Kingpin like he had just gotten out, and I'm like,
how did he get out of the car?
Exactly.
How did he fit in the car?
I think that's what makes it so funny to me. It's just because it just doesn't make any sense, but you just go with it.
Yeah, they also weren't afraid to go really serious with his backstory, too. His backstory is really good.
Yeah, because, I mean, there was a big accident that took his family from him, and he wants to take the family from another universe. And that's such a good motivation.
Yeah.
It's another villain that you really care for. And, like, you don't really want to root for him, but it's like you almost want to. I feel like that's what makes it really work for Kingpin.
That's why I like Prowler.
Oh, Prowler.
We forgot about Prowler.
Oh, Prowler.
Prowler's good.
He was great. He was really, while Kingpin was the main villain of the end for everybody, pretty much.
He was my favorite villain in the movie, is Prowler.
Prowler.
Because, yeah,
he was intimidating.
Again, with the video game, they do the same exact thing to where, like, yeah, it's that dramatic irony that, like, everybody watching it knows that Miles is Spider-Man and that Uncle Aaron is Prowler, but they don't know that, and it's just like the fact that when they find out that like Uncle Aaron or Prowler takes it like really well, even though he's dying.
Yeah.
But yeah, it shows like the family aspect of the movie.
Yeah, that was one of the better parts of the movie is just the entire dynamic with Miles' family, and how it's like he always like thinks his dad is always trying to embarrass him, and how he's always wanted to be with his uncle. So when his uncle dies, and he has that heart-to-heart moment with his dad through the door, which can't say anything because he's webbed to a chair and can't say anything, like physically can't. You really feel that. How his dad is like, I don't want us to drift apart. And it's so good. Also, another thing I love is that you really feel the stakes for this movie. You really feel like watching parts of this movie, you have no idea what could happen, and they could easily get away with the character dying.
Yeah, I thought Miles Morales was gonna die when I first watched the movie.
Do you have this feeling that like he won't, but there's just thought in the back of your head like, wait, what if he doesn't make it out of this?
Because like they're missing with like stuff with like time and stuff, so like somebody dying that's not supposed to die isn't like out of the question.
Because Penny Parker was originally going to die. She was originally planned to be killed by, I believe, Scorpion.
And when you're first watching the movie, you don't quite understand like all like the backstory yet, and you see Peter Parker die in the first 10 minutes, you're like, wait, what the heck? But yeah,
I think, and just speaking of that, going back to Peter B. Parker,
he's great.
All of the voice acting in this movie is fantastic.
Yeah, because the guy that voiced Peter B. Parker is
Jake Johnson.
Is a comedian. Yeah, and and
you really get that feeling that he's an older Peter Parker, and he really, really sells that. And all the fight scenes in this movie are shot extremely well. Yes. Again, there aren't a lot, but every single action scene, and again, makes you feel like you're watching a comic book with all the big effects, and especially, because I mean, we'll gloss over the suits a little bit, but
especially Miles' suit.
We're mostly gonna talk about Miles because every other suit is pretty much classic. Like we'll mention Peter's a little bit because it's just the classic Spider-Man suit.
Yeah, and they do it well. But Miles' suit, it's got character because it's got like that graffiti logo. So it's got like the character of like it showed him and his uncle doing graffiti earlier in the movie in the subway, and so it gives him that uniqueness of having his own suit.
Yeah, that's like his suit was really, really good. Spider-Ham is just a classic suit with just in a pig look. Penny Parker doesn't really have a suit. She just has the robot, but the robot looks cool.
Yeah, Gwen's suit is great too.
Gwen's suit is really, really good.
And like they don't change it literally at all from like comics or like previous.
Yeah, all of these suits are pretty much.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah,
but
because it's a lot easier to do in animation than in live action. Well, depending on what it is, and even Spider-Man Noir, where he's just a black figure.
Great. Yeah,
just a black figure with a trench coat.
Yeah,
and a hat.
they make him look like he's from a different. They make him look like he's from a different universe, and they do it really well.
They pull it off so well. Going back to especially just Miles' main suit, they do a really good job making it feel like it's Miles. Where you get that scene of where he's first like swinging, and you have What's Up Danger playing.
Yeah.
Because speaking of that, we gotta talk about the music in this movie.
Yeah, they had This Is My Time. They had What's Up Danger. No, This Is My Time's from the video games. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, they had What's Up Danger. Yeah,
it's Sunflower.
And then obviously Sunflower.
The music in this movie is so good. Like every single song they use really fits that situation.
Yes.
And
Scared of the Dark also.
Oh, that scene, you could really feel the emotion behind that scene.
Yeah, that's when Miles is like having a rough time, and
that's when it's announced to the world that Spider-Man is Peter Parker and he's dead. And hearing that music, you really get that somber feeling,
mm-hmm.
and I love that. The music they do for each scene fits the situation. Because whether it's being really epic or being very emotional, because the scene where Miles shows up in that final fight, and you get that pause, like comic book-esque shot.
Yeah.
Oh, it's fantastic. I feel like getting to probably my favorite part of this movie. The scene where Miles sends Peter back to his world
mm-hmm.
is fantastic. It's such a good parallel to earlier, because when Peter B. Parker first shows up, he's like knocked unconscious a bunch of times, and like he's I guess being held hostage. Not really held hostage, but in Prowler's apartment, or Uncle Aaron's apartment, but Miles thinks he's out of town. And just that whole dynamic of them first meeting is so good. And when Miles wants to, because when Prowler dies, all Miles wants to do is get revenge.
Mm-hmm.
And the point where Peter is like, you're way too angry, you can't go. And like, does like a leg swoop and jumps into the ceiling and grabs him by the shirt, and it's like, then Venom strike me right now, or turn invisible on command so you can get past me. And then Miles is so angry that he can't.
Yeah, because Peter B. Parker's character is so like silly and like comedic that we forget that he's about as experienced of a Spider-Man as you can get.
Yeah,
and that shows throughout the entire movie, because I like the dynamic between him and Miles, where like we're seeing him basically teach Miles how to be Spider-Man. So like whether it be like him teaching him how to swing when they're running from Doc Ock, or like the mental part of it, like in that scene you just talked about. I like the dynamic between both of them in the entire movie.
But I loved when they did a callback to that scene where all the other Spider-Men have gone back to their worlds, and Peter's about to go back, and then Kingpin's out there, and then Peter is like, I'll hold him off while you shut this down. And Miles is like, no, you're going home. And then does that same sweeping leg swoop, and he's like, you gotta go home. And then Peter's, how will I know I won't mess it up again? Because he doesn't want to go back, because he's like afraid of just what else happened between him and MJ, and just like scared of messing up again. So when he asked Miles, how do I know I won't mess it up again?
It's the same kind of thing as Kingpin with his family.
Yeah, because even earlier, when Miles gets tied to the chair and asks when I know when I'm ready, and Peter's like, you won't, it's a leap of faith. So when Peter asked that same question, Miles was like, you won't, and then he's like, all right, it's a leap of faith. And he's falling through the portal, and he's like, not bad, kid. And that's really Miles's step into really becoming Spider-Man, because by then it's only him, and he's fighting against Kingpin. And Jefferson Davis, Miles's dad, believes that it was this new Spider-Man that killed Prowler, because he found him with the body. And so when he makes his way down to Kingpin's lab and sees this happening, Spider-Man pretty much on the ground, and it's just like slightly cheering for him to get up. And once again, making a callback to way earlier in the movie when he's trying to impress Gwen, or like trying to, I guess, ask her out, where he's like, "Hey, I heard the shoulder touch him on the shoulder, hey," and then just zaps him so far away. This movie does really good at making callbacks to earlier scenes and just having good payoff. Because at the end of this movie, it does a really good job of showing what all the Spider-Men are doing when they're back in their old worlds. Because it shows, like, Spider-Man Noir solving a Rubik's Cube. Penny fixing the robot. And you get that, especially the scene, because you get ones like Spider-Ham and Gwen, where they're just sort of, Spider-Ham's eating a hot dog, Gwen's looking at a picture of him and Miles. But the best one is when you see Peter at Mary Jane's doorstep with flowers, and you really see, like, you don't get a lot, but you see enough to where it's like they're gonna try and fix what was broken. Getting to the ratings now, what would you give it?
I'm gonna say 9 out of 10. There's only one Spider-Man movie I would give above a 9 out of 10, and I would give Spider-Man 2 probably a 9.5, because that's my favorite personally. This movie is still great, and like if you said that this was the best Spider-Man movie, I'm not gonna tell you wrong, because if you ask me who my favorite Spider-Man is, it's either Miles or the Peter Parker from Into the Spider-Verse. So I'll give it either a 9 or 9.5, either one, but I'd say probably 9.
I'm giving this a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that. I'm not going to argue for a singular second about it.
For me, it's like, in my opinion, this is just my favorite movie of all time. Because even some of the stuff that I can understand nitpicks for, nothing really bothered me about this movie.
Yeah, there could be I'm nitpicking with the Doc Ock thing, but like,
there's nothing like holy crap bad about.
There's nothing bad about the movie. Like, there's even with like the good Spider movies, like I know you're an amazing Spider-Man advocate, but like, I liked the first one, but there's still stuff that is like flawed with the first one.
Yeah, I will 100% agree with both of those.
But there isn't anything that's like majorly flawed in the Spider-Verse. There's just little nitpicks, and that's all you can.
And even with the nitpicks I have, I still like those. Like I really liked all the villains. I adored every single Spider-Man character. And jumping back really quickly, to one other person we forgot to talk about, Aunt May.
I like her. She
is fantastic. She doesn't take any of your crap.
No, she doesn't take the crap. She, like, and a lot of times you see Aunt May as like an innocent. No, she lets them into that. What do they call it? Spider cave.
I'm always called a spider cave because she's
like she's part of it. She's been part of it, and like,
because instead of opening the back door to get to the spider cave, she kicks the door in.
And when you see like Peter B. Parker come out to a door, you expect her to be like, she reacts like surprisingly well to the fact that he looks almost exactly like regular Peter Parker.
Yeah. And the fact that she was just already like, oh, so you're from alternate dimension, and they're all like she's it's another Tuesday for her or something like that. It's great. I like her. She was good. Yeah, we just had to talk about her really quick because she was fantastic. Even when the villains came to their house. The one thing she's upset about is that they're doing it in her living room. And she takes a baseball bat and smacks Tombstone outside of her. She says, take it outside. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. But anyway, that was just the one part we forgot to touch on. But this movie is fantastic. There's nothing I can complain about for it. It's my favorite movie of all time. And I'm ready for the second one to be
as good, or I'm not gonna say even better. We'll have to wait and see. But
Yeah,
I'm ready for it to be as good.
I'm just ready for a sequel in general.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if you haven't seen it, fix that. Please fix that. It's trust me, it's worth it.
Even if you haven't seen any other of the Spider-Man movies or not a big superhero person, doesn't matter. It's less of a superhero movie and more of just a good comedy, honestly.
Yeah, you don't have to have seen
else.
any other Spider-Man movie. You just have to. You just gotta watch it.
Just watch it.
There are other references to Spider-Man movies, but it's like blink and you miss them. It's just like a little wink to the audience.
Yeah, they're not like slamming it in your face.
They're not like, hey, this was from Spider-Man 2. They're not doing that. So I think that's just what makes this movie so good. And yeah, that's pretty much about it.
That's all I got.
Stay tuned for next week, where hopefully Taylor will be back and you can be a part of it too. We can get 3 people.
You can fit 3 in this car. Yeah, in that middle, you can see that middle console. Oh, yeah, for sure.
So yeah, stay tuned for all 3 of us, because he might be a new regular on here more often than not.
I liked it. Please.
Yeah. So next week we are going to be doing Spider-Man Far From Home.
Oof.
We are coming to the end of the Spider-Man reviews, because we got,
or the beginning, because there's gonna be 3 more. You're gonna have to.
That's very true.
They're giving you more work.
Yeah, that's very true. But yeah, we got this, and then we got No Way Home next. We got 2 weeks. 2 weeks away. We're this close, everybody. This close.
And you'll have plenty to talk about. That might be an hour-long video, so just pray.
Yeah, because I'm going to try and see about, because there might be several of us in that review, not gonna lie.
There might be the entire movie theater staff.
Honestly, there might be, because
I'll see it at the very least 3 times.
Yeah, I will say, for the No Way Home video, Taylor's definitely going to be here. He's definitely going to try and be here. We're still not exactly 100% sure when, because me and Taylor are going to see it almost immediately. Don't know when you're going to see it, though.
Yeah, because I'm going to be out of town. Me and my dad will probably honestly see it in Vegas. It'll be great.
If you want to try and see it, because we're going to try and record the video maybe on Thursday or Friday, maybe. So if you want to try and see it before then, and if we need to push back, we can be. But I'm also going to try and see about adding one more person, like not to permanently, but for talking about this movie in particular, because it's going to be you 2 and then one other person one other, well, maybe him, but also one other person.
Right. Yeah. Because it'll be so packed that 2 people can't quite get all of it.
Yeah.
Have different points of view.
But also, just the person I'm planning on asking is arguably as big of a Spider-Man fan as I am.
Oh, jeez.
Which might give it away to some people who it could be, but I still need to talk to him about it. But anyways, y'all stay tuned for the Far From Home video, and in a couple weeks, we got No Way Home. So thank y'all for watching, and we'll see you guys next week. And stay tuned for tomorrow as well. Well, yeah, tomorrow as of uploading this, I have a rant video coming up, so stay tuned for that, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, we talked about that. That'll be a juicy one.
Oh, yeah. All right. See y'all later, webheads.